And hello and welcome to another episode of the Double 18 Podcast live stream edition. I'm your host, Stephen Nagishi, and with me, after a week hiatus last week, Ken Fang from Awful Announcing is back with me. We're recording again once again. Ken, how are you? Hope you had a great last week, and it's great to be back with you once again.
Good to be on with you, Stephen. Good to be on with all of you. And once again, we are live and happy to be with you. And, I'm experimenting with a new table here. So you're seeing a little bit more, instead of me looking down on my screen, you're getting to see me more level face to face. So good to be on with you and good to be seeing you. And as we go into this the week before Thanksgiving, Stephen.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly, it's a lot of people are in the festive mood post Halloween, and it's Thanksgiving, and then it's basically all the way to Christmas. And pretty much, I think a lot of people are already bypassing Thanksgiving and probably already thinking about Christmas by now. So,
Yes.
I know a lot of radio stations across the country are already been playing Christmas music nonstop
Yes.
since maybe the first week of November. So,
Yep.
It is what it is. But
Yes.
very, very excited to have you do this once again on this our show. And well, Ken, let's kind of look back on the news that we missed a little bit last week.
Sure.
We want to talk about the first and foremost, Texas Rangers winning the World Series. Ken, from your perspective, from a media coverage, ratings, and everything, and as well as the series overall, what were your thoughts?
Well, the Rangers got hot again. Two wild card teams basically coming in. Arizona and Texas, they were doing quite well during the regular season, and then of course Texas went down to the last day and then didn't get the division. Arizona similar as well, but they both got hot during the playoffs, and they did quite well. And as much as Arizona, and as much as I don't like the Los Angeles Dodgers. And seeing Arizona sweep them out, I was very happy with that. But it wasn't very good for baseball because overall, neither the Rangers nor the Arizona Diamondbacks have a national following.
Yeah.
They'll probably get a much better following due to what happened over the this past year. And usually what happens is the following year, there's going to see a spike in ratings locally and also get
Mhm.
more national games on ESPN. In fact, ESPN has already announced that the Rangers
Yeah.
will take on the Cubs on opening night in I think the late March or early April. And that's the benefit of winning the World Series. You get more national games. But overall, ratings wise, it wasn't very good for Fox. It was the lowest World Series of all time. Even lower than the pandemic in 2020. So that wasn't very good. But I will say this: they for most nights, for the game one and game two, they won the night. They did get a better viewership for game five. Overall, they were averaging 8 million viewers, which is just absolutely awful. It was really terrible. But they got for game five, they got a raise in viewership to 11 million, which was on par with what we've seen the last 2 years post-pandemic. But unfortunately, the series went 5 games, and the Texas Rangers pretty much dominated. And
Mhm.
as a great game, as much as we saw a great game in game one, Arizona took game two pretty easily. But then after that, it was pretty much the Texas Rangers and Corey Seager, and we saw the performances by the Rangers. Pitching staff. Bruce Bochy, once again, a great job as a manager, coming out of
Mhm.
retirement, showing that he is a Hall of Fame manager, winning 2 World Series with 2 different teams, the San Francisco Giants, of course, and then now the Texas Rangers. There's the solidifying that he is truly a great manager. And, for Texas, it's their first World Series, and it's great to see, and great to see other teams a new blood coming in to win a championship, Stephen.
Absolutely. I've spent 2.5 years living in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and I've been to only a handful of Rangers game myself, and the Rangers have had their runs, especially in the early 2010s. They came very very close to winning the World Series. If you remember the 2011 World Series, they were only like literally a one out away from winning the
Right.
World Series. And yeah, that was they finally were able to exonerate that 2011 World Series. And it made me think about the Rangers with the time that I've spent living in the Dallas Fort Worth area and listening to Eric Nadel, Matt Hicks, and the Rangers radio broadcast crew on 105.3 The Fan, which is the Rangers flagship station, by the way. It was very lean years, with the Rangers back in the day. They've exhausted all of their resources. The stadium, which was a globalized field, which was still relatively stadium that was fairly new, but they were transitioning into building a brand new dome stadium, right, which is currently their home now. And it made me think about that time I've spent in Dallas, and the Rangers certainly spent a lot of money building that team. Corey Seager, Eric Simeon, and then Jacob DeGrom, who unfortunately didn't even last the season, and he might ended up missing pretty much all of next year as well because of the Tommy John surgery. And they struggled really badly down the stretch, and they didn't even win the division. They looked like they were going to miss the playoff pretty much, and they managed to you know get into the playoffs. Really, really got hot, and I think I didn't think that they would even get to the World Series because of their bullpen issue, because they blow like almost 30 saves this past year. And even in the playoffs and in the World Series, that bullpen looked very, very shaky at times too. So they still managed to hold their ground and win the World Series, which is a great thing. Certainly, they've been spending the money. They've been also drafting pretty well. Evan Carter's somebody who they drafted in the COVID years, and I know that a lot of people were scratching their head because not many people didn't see him as a high draft pick, but he really came on in the second half and played a pivotal role in their run for the World Series, and I think he has a legitimate shot at being a regular next year. They also drafted very well Wyatt Langford out of Florida at fourth overall. Now he's already in Double A, and there were even talks of maybe him being on the roster in the World Series. But certainly next year, at some point, he's going to get called up if he doesn't make the team out of a spring training, and it's going to be very very interesting because they also have Jack Leiter, who's the young son of Al Leiter, a former major leaguer, and Kumar Rocker, who was a teammate of Leiter at Vanderbilt. Rocker was drafted 10th overall by the Mets in 2021. He didn't sign with the Mets. He spent that entire year playing indie ball, and then he was drafted the next year by the Rangers. So at least the Rangers have some very interesting arm down there as well. So if one of them, or at least both of them, capable of emerging as a reliever or even a starting pitcher, I think the Rangers will still likely to be a very, very tough team to beat. They look to perhaps maybe shore up their bullpen. I know Josh Hader's name had been linked to the Rangers in the early reports of the free agency, which we will get to in a little bit later tonight. I think the bullpen arm, if they can show it up, I think the Rangers will likely be another tough out coming out of not just from the American League West, but from the American League as well, Ken.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that baseball is officially in their winter meetings, and of course handing out hardware for the previous season, then now it's to look to who is going to be on next season. Of course, the attention now is where Shohei Ohtani is going to land. Uh,
Mhm.
Now that a free agency window is going to be opening up, if it hasn't opened up already today. So that's something we'll be watching this weekend, the next few days, to see where some of the bigger names land. Um, if they decide to stay with their teams, or if Shohei Ohtani decides to go and decide to leave the Angels and eventually go on to another team, maybe the Dodgers. There's speculation that he could go maybe to one of the Texas teams. It's a possibility, of course. So we'll keep an eye on that as well.
And we'll get to that a little bit later as well. So, um, another baseball news that we wanted to touch base on tonight was Arizona's Corbin Carroll wins the NL Rookie of the Year. And why is that significant? Is that because he is of Taiwanese American, and he played a super pivotal role in helping Arizona wins the National League uh, uh, pennant. Arizona barely squeaked in, courtesy of my Cubs blowing a three-game series against Arizona late in September. Had the Cubs won one of those games, I think it was the Cubs instead of the Arizona getting into the playoffs. So once you get to the playoffs, we found out it doesn't matter whether you are the top seed or if you won 100+ games. It's a fair game. So Arizona really rode the hot bat, and it's an incredible story uh, of just an amazing baseball that both the Rangers and certainly Arizona played this year. So I'm going to play.
Yeah, that is great to see. As as you mentioned, Stephen, he is biracial. His father is Irish American, and his mother, Paylin, is from Taiwan. He grew up in Louisiana, um, managed to get to Arizona, made a big impact as an outfielder this season. A lot of clutch hits,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
he was rewarded with the Rookie of the Year award. And I can't. I have to think of. I don't think we've seen a person of Asian descent. Actually, no. Of course, there's of course. Um, I'm trying to think
Yeah.
about Seattle. Yeah, Seattle. Ichiro was all.
Nomo, Hideo Nomo, countless of,
Yeah,
those were some of the names. Certainly, Dave All had a, experience playing in Japanese leagues before coming here. Certainly.
yeah. Technically, they really weren't rookies. They were professional, but
Mhm.
because based on the Rookie of the Year award, they were given Rookie of the Year award. But this is really Corbin Carroll. This is really truly a rookie. He's young, in his early 20s, and great to see this. I love seeing this. A good kid. We saw what he was able to do with the Arizona Diamondbacks during the playoff run. So hats off to him. Hats off, and great to see. And as someone who is Taiwanese myself, it's something that I'm very happy to see also.
Yeah, he becomes the first Asian American MLB Rookie of the
Right.
Year.
Yes.
This is from NBC News. So, certainly a remarkable achievement.
Yes.
It's a wonderful story. Hopefully that his performance will likely to inspire many Asian players out there. The young ones here in America certainly, and hopefully will inspire a lot of them to play baseball as well. And Corbin Carroll, I believe he signed a long-term deal with Arizona even before he played,
Yes. Yep.
single major league game, which was kind of unheard of. So
Right.
certainly the investment paid off big time this year, and this is going to be a great player. Hopefully, he can achieve greatness moving forward with
And
the Arizona Diamondbacks and become the face of Major League Baseball moving forward, Ken.
his first home run, interestingly enough, was off Yu Darvish. That was back in September.
Ah,
So
mhm.
another Asian connection, Stephen. But great to see. Unfortunately, Yu does not want to be. He will be forever known as the first home run given up to Corbin Carroll. But great to see and wonderful story and something that easily a player that we can all root for.
Absolutely. Hopefully, he won't do too good against my Cubs, but it's going to be a very good players. He's going to be a very good player moving forward, and hopefully, he will become, again, even greater player and somebody who can become like a legit, MVP caliber player moving forward. All right, let's stick with the Major League Baseball and talk about the recent free, with the season officially over now, and with the free agency already underway. You mentioned about the Shohei Ohtani news. He is a free agent now. He rejected the qualifying offer tonight, and now he is set to become possibly the most expensive free agent signing in the history of baseball. It's basically Otani, and I don't want to say everybody else. I think it's an insult to the other players who, certainly going to be attracting a lot of attention, specifically Cody Bellinger, Aaron Nola, Matt Chapman, among others. But it's basically Shohei Ohtani who's going to be dominating the market, Ken.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he is as you said, we don't want to say it's Shohei Ohtani and everybody else, but he is the player that is moving the needle the most over the season. I saw it when I went to Anaheim earlier this year. The people in the stands who were in Anaheim Stadium and Angel Stadium who wanted to see him was just immense. The people sitting in the right field bleachers where I was mostly Asian, Japanese, Taiwanese. Great to see that as well. So, to be honest, I don't think that I thought maybe it had we seen something where the Angels had a modicum had a chance to be in the playoffs this season. Maybe he would stay, but you cannot blame Ohtani if he decides to go to a team that has a chance to win. He does like the Southern California area. The Dodgers are rumored to be the very big favorite. He also has a connection to Boston in New Balance. He does, of course, if you remember seeing all those World Series commercials with Ohtani there for New Balance. The head of New Balance and the New Balance offices are in Boston. So that's a potential
Yeah.
thing. But also we've heard about he is also looking at weather, and that is a factor. And Dallas and Houston are warm places. And if he doesn't want to stay in Southern California, those are potential landing areas for him as well. Of course, Houston, of course, we all know their track record. The Texas Rangers, the new World Series champions. So there is a potential there for that Ohtani to get a big payday, Stephen, and wherever he lands. Of course, he's not going to be pitching next year because of his issues with his arm. We know that
Mm-hmm.
from this past season, but he is going to
Sure.
definitely be a chance to be a designated hitter, whichever team he lands at, and his bat, as we all know, is lightning, and we'll see where he goes. Again, I have to think the Dodgers are the leaders in the clubhouse, Stephen, but he's going to listen. His agent and he are going to listen to any potential offers that could make him a very rich man. He's not that he's not a rich already, but a much richer man.
Yeah, I think a lot of free agents are basically waiting on where Shohei Ohtani lands. Uh, and it seems as though I think by the first week of December, when the owners meeting is a winner meeting takes place, right?
Yeah, the winter meeting. That yes.
I think that's where he is expected to make a decision, and that's when the movement will start. Because I think a lot of people are waiting on the contract Shohei Ohtani is expected to get. And I don't think anybody will get anywhere close to what Ohtani will get, but I think it will kind of set the tone, maybe open a floodgate for other free agents to finally, start signing. Because unless Ohtani, inks the pen with a team, I don't think there won't be any major movements. So I think a lot of it is all dependent on Shohei Ohtani, where he lands during the owners meeting in the first week of December. And I think he has stated that that's where he wants to probably sign around that time, so that at least he can focus uh, on his off-season workouts. Uh, in December and then January and then also in early February, when he's expected to report to, his new club, whether it's in the Arizona or somewhere in Florida. We shall see. Certainly, the odds as we see on FoxSports.com right now, Dodgers are a favorite. We've been mentioned many, many times. He doesn't have to change address. Basically, he has to change maybe the driving course, going from Anaheim to, Chavez Ravine there. Hopefully, it won't be a bad drive. Surprising, thing is that my Chicago Cubs have become a second favorite, plus 350. San Francisco Giants is another West Coast team that is in desperate need of a star. So there is a good interest there. You have two New York teams, both at plus 800. The Rangers, as we mentioned, they are the world champions, and there was some rumors that that's one of three teams that Ohtani is interested in signing. Certainly a good time to join the Rangers. The year that they won the World Series, and obviously Ohtani playing in the American League West certainly knows the Texas Rangers and their ball club as well. So I am I'm very excited, and I'm cautiously optimistic about the Cubs. Hopefully, being able to land Shohei Ohtani. Certainly, listening to both 670, The Score, and the ESPN Chicago's interview, the president of baseball operations, Jed Hoyer, has been coy about, specifically naming Ohtani as a prize target. But the Cubs made a huge news this past week when they hired former Milwaukee Brewers manager Craig Counsell, to a 5-year, $40 million contract, and then immediately firing David Ross, who was the manager the last couple of years. And I did not see this one coming, Ken. And I think Counsell was rumored to be going to the Mets because the Mets hired a Milwaukee executive, and obviously Counsell, being a Milwaukee Brewers manager the last few years, and certainly having a lot of success despite a limited payroll and resources, makes him one of the top managers in the game. Even though the playoff success, including this year, doesn't equate to his success on the field, fortunately. But I took this move as the Cubs are serious about winning. Certainly, the owner, Tom Ricketts, was quoted that the way they missed the playoffs in the final week of the season did not sit well with him. And I have been highly critical of David Ross as a manager. I've been
Yeah,
going on a tweet,
I,
with his lineup selection, particularly, putting in washed up veterans like Eric Hosmer, Trey Mancini, career minor leaguers like Miles Mastroboni, high up in the lineup, etc. It was just so ridiculous. And then he didn't even play a lot of young players late in the season, like Alex Canario, who suffered a serious injury and then came back and then just be tore up the minor leagues late in the season, and then only to have him sit in the bench for basically the entire time he was called up. So even if Cubs made a move this offseason, I thought that David Ross was going to be one of the first, coaches who could get fired in the middle of 2024 season. So I'm glad that the Cubs decided, even if this move is seen as very cold blooded, the Cubs made a decision, a business decision, to go all in and get the best manager out there and make sure that they're sending a strong message to anybody out there who doubt about the Cubs that the Cubs are very serious. Council said that it's time. It's a great time to be a Cub. Certainly, of course, getting that massive contract from the Cubs certainly makes it easier. And but I think it's a strong message that the Cubs are sending to the rest of the league that they are serious and that they're not going to take a back seat from anybody anymore, and that hopefully it doesn't have to be just Otani. And I'm fully aware that the Otani may ended up just staying on the West Coast because it's closer and the weather is warmer, et cetera, et cetera. But if the Cubs do get a seat on the table and just be lucky enough to get Otani, I just hope that it doesn't end there because the Cubs still have a lot of work to be done. If you ended up getting Otani and lose Bellinger, you still have to figure out a way to fill that hole. They still need a first baseman, Reese Hoskins, who had who didn't basically play it at all with the Phillies because of the injuries this year. Certainly could be like a bounce back, comeback candidate, much like Cody Bellinger was. And he's still young enough to play first base, so there's another option there. Very, very interested to see what where Otani is going, and I hope it will be the Cubs. And I think the Cubs are quietly inching toward that move, and hopefully get the attention of Shohei Otani this offseason.
right. And also another move, while the Cubs made a great move to get Greg Counsell, they lost Craig Breslow, who is assistant general manager, and now he will become the head of baseball operations for the Boston Red Sox. He replaces Chaim Bloom, who was basically incompetent in his role. He was brought in amid a lot of high expectations. He was hampered and handcuffed by the Red Sox, John Henry's decision to not spend money, and anything he tried to do was basically shot down. And so I don't know if Breslow is going to be able to have those handcuffs released or unlocked, but whatever the Red Sox decide to do, I think they have a very good person in Craig Breslow. He has been a Red Sox. He was a former player with the Red Sox in the teens, in the decade of the teens, knows the market quite well, and was a part of that Cubs front office and was pretty much with Jed Hoyer. So, Stephen, I think a very good move by the Red Sox to get someone like them. There was thoughts that maybe that Kim Eng wanted to come over, that once that she was let go and released from her contract from the Miami Marlins, but she expressed no interest in coming to Boston. So Craig Breslow comes to the Red Sox instead. We will see if John Henry allows Breslow to make the moves that he needs to make to improve the Red Sox, which have been in turmoil since they won their World Series back in 2018. So we'll see what happens, Stephen. And Breslow, he has shown that he has been he wanted to move to the front office, has been doing such a great job with the Cubs, been thought to be one of the
Yes.
people who could become a head of baseball operations. But again, we'll see what happens with the Red Sox, because this is a team. Here's an organization that right now is all over the place. It is has its hands in baseball. It is doing things in Liverpool. The fans of that great franchise in the Premier League are not happy with what they're doing over there. They also have it
Yeah.
own the Pittsburgh Penguins in the NHL. So and also are going to be part of the new golf league that is going to be headed by the PGA. So we'll see what happens with Fenway Sports Group. I'm very skeptical on what they've been doing. As much as I praise John Henry for the championships that the Red Sox have won in 2004, 207, 13, and 18. What they've been
Yeah.
doing over the last 5 years, Stephen, has been totally baffling, especially with a team that knowing what the Red Sox fan base is like, and uh, we'll see what happens. But hopefully, Craig Breslow can bring uh, some great energy to a front office that has
Hmm.
been lacking in energy uh, during the high and bloom days.
Yeah, I happen to be in the Boston area right now, and his hiring was, somewhat of seen as another Ivy leaguer nerd analytics guy being hired, even though he does have an experience pitching in the major leagues and won the World Series with the Boston Red Sox in 2013. So, it will be very, very interesting to see, where the Red Sox go, because I know the Red Sox finished last in the last 2 years. So that does not sit well with, the rowdy Boston fans right now. And it'll be very interesting to see, where the Boston, uh, you know, how they will spend their money this off season as well. Now, speaking of spending the money, there are some interesting Japanese players expected to join the major leagues, this upcoming off season. It's not just Shohei Ohtani, who certainly has already made his marks here, but some of the rankings here, according to MLB.com, the name that you have to remember here, number one, of course, is Shohei Ohtani. That's number one, and that there's another one, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He is the ace for Team Japan in their World Baseball Classic
Yes.
pitcher there. He won the Japanese version of the Cy Young Sawamura Award for 3 straight years. He has pitched in the Japan Series the last 3 years, winning last year and did not win, unfortunately, last week. He did pitch 2 games, was hit pretty badly in game one. Game six, he went all the way to, send the game all the way to game seven by himself, throwing 138 pitches. So, he is somewhat of smaller stature. He's like, I think, below 5'11", maybe 180. So compared to you, Darvish and Shohei Ohtani, he's somewhat of a smaller framed guy. Um, so there's a bit of a concern. He's also had some injuries in the past before, but he is healthy. This guy can be a top of the rotation guy. I know Brian Cashman, the Yankees GM, when he went to see him pitch, he actually threw a no hitter in front of him. This was like a basically just come to the game, fly the next day. So, he said that he still has the paper ticket from that game as a memento. So that is a strong way to make an impression for the Yankees, who definitely could use a top of the line pitcher. But we'll get to some weird comments Cashman made about Giancarlo Stanton. But you know what I'm talking about, right, Ken?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So he basically called for those who are not aware of Brian Cashman, referred to Giancarlo Stanton as a what is it, Tin Man or something like that?
Yeah, yeah. Brian Cashman, um, as much as he was a wunderkind for the New York Yankees, back in the day during their heyday with the championships, and of course helping to build a championship team. I believe it was 2010 is when they won the World Series. Um, he has basically been resting on his laurels and has been massively criticized by the Yankees fans for not doing anything. And he recently he had that press conference that you're referring to, in which he made those statements about Giancarlo Stanton, in which fans were just
Yeah, there's
saying,
a statement right.
"Yeah, you can go ahead, and if we have video, okay, you have this, you have the written statement there
Oh, sorry,
from Ken."
not the sorry, but the statement here about this is Joe Wolf, his Stanton's agent,
Yes,
uh, referring to the comments here. I read the context
yes,
of the entire interview. I think it's a good reminder for all free agents considering signing in New York, both foreign and domestic, that to play for the team that is the Yankees, you've got to be made of Teflon, both mentally and physically, because you can never let your guard down even in the offseason. Now, this is a
yeah,
very interesting comment because Joe Wolf, by the way, represents, here we go, Andy Martino mentions here, Wolf also represents Yoshinobu Yamamoto, but on no other planet does one impact the other. Wolf just doing his job as an advocate for client. But you know, we'll wait and see what happens there, Ken. But
yeah,
you know,
it's yeah. Well,
it's not a good look.
as we all know, Stephen, players talk to each other, and when they're on the field, off the field, and when they have a common agent, they'll talk to each other. We've seen this before, and
Uh-huh.
once you get a bad reputation, or once you make a bad statement, it spreads like
Yeah.
wildfire. And if Brian
Mm-hmm.
Cashman is seen by Japanese or any type of player, by an agent, or even just by the client, as someone who is toxic and not to sign with, that affects a whole slew of players, Stephen. And while a lot of players would love to play for the Yankees, once you get a reputation that a front office guy, that a guy like Brian Cashman makes stupid statements, or even the ownership makes dumb statements, you know how many people are going to sign with them? Not too many. So you've got to be careful. And if you're going to make a statement like that against Giancarlo Stanton, a guy who supposedly was one of your star players, um, and a guy who was now granted Stanton didn't do great when it came into clutch time very often, but still he's
Yeah.
one of your star players. You can't make that type of statement. Granted, George Steinbrenner was known for making an outlandish statement against his players, but he was just the owner.
Yeah.
He was like, yes, he's the owner. He stated he backs up his money with championships. So he's kind of seen as eccentric. So it's okay. But when when you don't have the record to back it up, and a guy like Cashman, who has not had a championship for over a decade, that's not good for players you want to sign, Stephen.
No, it's not. It's not. And the agents will certainly use that as a tool to avoid going to the Yankees. Certainly, the Yankees can offer so much. I understand, playing in a big market, they can certainly offer a lot more perks, opportunities, money. But sometimes you know it's probably not worth it to some people. So it will be very interesting if this is going to come back to haunt him. Certainly, the Yankees are in market and going to be big players, but they might have to pay a lot more, and I mean pay a lot more to appease the clients that Joe Wolf represents, as well as maybe the other agents look at that and say, maybe the Yankees are desperate enough to pay more just to appease the players feeling and overcome the perception. So will be very interesting. Going back to the free agent ranking, there's another interesting name here, Shota Imanaga, who happens to be a former teammate with Trevor Bauer this past year with the Yokohama in the Japanese league. Imanaga was quoted as saying, he owes Bauer a lot about this past year and his interest in pitching in the major leagues in terms of how he prepares himself. Of course, that is Trevor Bauer. Imanaga was also a member of the Team Japan that won the World Baseball Classic. I think he pitched against the U.S. in that championship game
Yes, he did.
as
Yep.
well. He's a left-handed pitcher, so this is going to be a very interesting. Certainly, Southpaw gets a lot more attention, and he's a very good pitcher. Unlike Yamamoto, he's actually in the older side. He's 30 years old. He is expected to be posted by the Yokohama team. Very interesting to see what kind of contract he ends up getting. I don't think he will get anywhere close to what Yamamoto is expected to get. I think he's probably maybe close to half of what Yamamoto get, but it will only take a team or two to get into a bidding war to push the his salary to about maybe 15 million as the starting point and maybe higher. So it will be very interesting to see where Imanaga ends up running as well. There's also another young pitcher, Yuki Matsui, who is a relief pitcher in Japan. He's also expected to test the major leagues. He is a free agent. He's not a guy who will be posted, so he's free to sign with any team. And he's a left-handed bullpen pitcher who has over 200 saves in his career. Certainly, a team like the Rangers could use a more reliable bullpen arm. The thing about Matsui is that he was also with the Team Japan in the World Baseball Classics, but he had a hard time adjusting to the Major League Baseball, which tends to be more slippery than the traditional Japanese baseball that they use over there. So it will be very interesting to see the adjustment if he can adjust to pitching. Almost every day in the major leagues with the ball that he is not really used to, throwing, or had a hard time doing World Baseball Classic. So that might play into, the decision of a lot of baseball or teams who wants to add a quality bullpen arm. But that's another name to remember in the free agency period. As more and more Japanese players are expected to jump into the major leagues this upcoming next season. So, will be interesting to see.
Yes,
go ahead,
we
Ken.
look to see a lot of hot stove news is going to be coming over the next week, especially as we get closer to the winter meetings in Nashville, December 3rd through the 6th. If you have MLB Network, they will be covering it all for you. People like Ken Rosenthal will be all over it as well. It'll be fun to watch. And especially, as you mentioned, Stephen, as Shohei Ohtani wants to solidify where he plays, he wants to get it all done by that first week so he can adjust and make sure he moves to, or if he's going to move outside of Southern California, get acclimated to his new settings and then get ready, whether he's going to be going to Arizona or Florida for spring training. So we'll keep an eye on that. Of course, nothing's going to happen over the next week because it's going to be the holidays and baseball is going to be taking a break for that. But we will be definitely keeping an eye, especially once after Black Friday, and especially when free agency starts. It's going to be quite interesting, and we'll be monitoring our social media feeds because that's where it's all going to be breaking. It's all going to be breaking fast, and it's going to be quite interesting to watch.
Absolutely. All right, let's turn our attention to this past week's NFL Week 10 review. Let's start with your Cleveland Browns, Ken. Quite a victory over the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the game or follow through. I know you were very surprised, the Browns actually winning. What were your thoughts?
Well, let me just put it this way. When I was at work, I only have a 30-minute break. So when I was watching on Red Zone, the Browns were down 17-3 in Baltimore. And I was thinking, oh, here we go again. They definitely shocked the Ravens, all right. Deshaun Watson threw an interception. That was a pick six that was returned. And I was thinking
that was on the first drive or second drive, right? I think.
Yes. Yep. And they were down They were not playing very well. Every time that Scott Hansen would say, "Oh, let's go over to the Browns," uh, they were tackled in the backfield, and that Ravens defense, which is so venerable, was playing up to its potential. What I didn't see and did not know until about 7 o'clock that night was that when I saw um, the touchdown montage, or what Scott Hansen did a review and said, let's take a look at the game of the day. And I said, oh, it's going to be something else, during the 1 o'clock window, or maybe it's going to be that crazy Chargers game, the Lions Chargers game in the late window, which I was able to see uh, uh, through Red Zone, which went back and forth. I thought that was going to be the game of the day, and then all of a sudden he goes, "Oh yes," and then Cleveland won uh, by a last-second field goal. I said, "They did what?" So yes, I was very shocked. Also, too, what helped too is that the Browns got their own pick six late. They off of Lamar Jackson, so they were able to score. What led to that field goal was the fact that there was a missed extra point. So it took for Deshaun Watson to come down, play very competently. They were down 24-9 in the second half, and were able to manage to battle it out and do some great job with the run, Stephen. And I now have seen the highlights since, thanks to NFL Red Zone and thanks to NFL Sunday Ticket, which I have. And there you see some of the runs that they were able to do. This is early in the game, as you can see, that down
Right.
7-0, down 14-0, at the half down 17-3. At first, I just thought this was no way that the Browns would be able to win. This is going to be another typical a day in Baltimore where the Browns lose to the Ravens. But now
Yeah.
a team that is now 6-3, they'll be going to be taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, a
Mhm.
team that did manage to beat the Green Bay Packers this week at
Yeah.
home. So that game, I
Mhm.
believe, is going to be in Cleveland this week. I have a lot of confidence now, Stephen. I have a total. This is something I'm not. I have to admit, I am not used to having confidence taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Going into the fact is that Cincinnati lost also in a last second field goal to
Mhm.
Houston. So here's a chance for the Browns to take at least. Now the Ravens are still on top of the division, even with the loss to the Browns. But here's a chance for the Browns to get a solidified hold of second place of the 6-3 record if they can defeat the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's a good chance that right now that they can actually have a good hold and a good chance to make the playoffs. So I'm very confident. I'm not used to this, Stephen. I'm not used to being so happy after a game against the Baltimore Ravens. So if the Browns can continue doing what they're doing, and of course Deshaun Watson, as much as I don't like talking about him, he is showing what he did against Houston, what he did, and when he played for the Houston Texans. And here's an opportunity right now for the Cleveland Browns to take a big foothold and at least get second place, and right now have a good chance to make the playoffs come January, Stephen.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the Browns' performance. They certainly. I think Lamar. It wasn't Lamar's finest game. We saw a couple of picks being thrown, even a pick six, which was thrown later in the game, which we will probably see in a bit. But very resilient performance by the Browns. Who they don't have a lot of luck against the Baltimore Ravens, whether it's in Cleveland or here in Baltimore. So for them to actually shock the Ravens at home, it is a truly impressive and really great team effort by the Browns. They're in great shape now. Certainly, I thought that this is where maybe the Browns start to wilt. Um, where the rest of the AFC North, as tough as it is, this is where you're going to start to see pretenders and contenders. Baltimore being a legit contender. So this is a bad loss for Baltimore at home. Now they're going to have to go and face the Cincinnati Bengals on Thursday Night Football. I believe it's in Cincinnati, correct?
Yes. No, it's in Baltimore. It's in
Oh, it's
Baltimore.
in Baltimore. Okay, now both teams coming off a bad loss, and now everybody's pissed. So this is going to be very, very interesting. It could be a real battle for the survival within the not just in the AFC North, excuse me, but for the playoffs because it's going to be a very, very
There's
tight
that pick
race
six.
in the
There's that pick
AFC.
six. Yeah,
Oh,
there's
there's
that
that
pick
pick
six.
six. Yeah, this was a very shocking one, and then they missed the extra point. I remember
Yeah,
Dustin
they missed.
Hopkins. Yeah, this was a stunner. I thought that was the end of it when he missed the extra point, but they hung on. It's a tight race now in the AFC North, and it's up for grabs pretty much. Certainly, Baltimore, Cincinnati, your Browns, and the Steelers next week. This week in Week 11 is going to start to differentiate, start to separate themselves, within the division. Certainly, still long ways to go, but this is kind of the week that where you could see teams within your own division start to
Yeah. Here's the game
separate
winning.
themselves.
Yeah, here's
Yeah,
the
here
game
it
winning.
is. It's
Yeah, I'm.
interesting. Guy can miss an extra point, and then yet he can actually hit a game-winning field goal. So a
If this,
fantastic performance by Cleveland, and certainly they're trending in the right direction. Okay,
yeah,
so
let's
let's
talk.
talk about my Chicago Bears. Sorry about that, Ken.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the Bears barely beat the Carolina Panthers this past actually last Thursday. Um, and it wasn't a pretty game, and I'm going to say that
It
loud
was
and
terrible.
clear.
It was
It was
really a
no, it
bad.
wasn't.
Really a bad.
It was a bad game, and you know, Justin Fields unfortunately was not available to start, so it was Tyson Bagent show once again. He looked very, very timid. And was out of sync from the very start. His footwork was not good. The passes that he was throwing, he was just basically just a short passes. Certainly, his performance against the Saints, especially in the fourth quarter, where he threw three or two interceptions and then lost a fumble, certainly probably shook him up. And Bears decided that they didn't want him to do more than he's being asked to do. And it was a bad game. I give Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit a lot of credit to, even call this game and try to make it as interesting as possible, because the game overall itself, there was really nothing interesting about it other than the fact that the Bears own the Panthers' number one pick, next year. And if the Bears either win or lose, they still have the more than likely the first overall pick, at the end of the ball game. And certainly, unfortunately, being both teams playing so poorly this year. Carolina with Bryce Young is 1-8 entering this game, and they've already fired an offensive coordinator, or actually, excuse me, head coach Frank Reich was actually calling plays as an OC as well, but he relinquished that and gave that role to running backs coach Thomas Brown. Even still, just the trade this past offseason completely crippled the Panthers. That they had to give up DJ Moore as a part of the package. Thankfully, as a Bears fan, Moore has been one of the few highlights this year. And even still, he's in top 5-6 in wide receiver yardage. I just can't still shake the notion that he is very, very underutilized in the Bears system, unfortunately. But hopefully, this is where things start to make a change for the better. Ken, and excuse me, I had to charge my laptop because it was out of battery. My apologies there, but
Okay.
certainly, there were some positives in this ball game. Montez Sweat, who the Bears
Yeah.
had to give up a second round pick for the second consecutive year, really start to make his presence felt. He had like a multiple pressures against Bryce Young in that ball game, and certainly, I think it looked like a very good trade in that ball game where Montez Sweat started to dominate, thankfully, and Tyson Bagent. As poorly as he played, there's no denying the fact that he led the Bears to 2 wins, 2-2 in his 4 starts. Uh, Started off very good with the Raiders. Had a bit of a downer against the Chargers on Sunday Night Football, with the Chris Collinsworth's love fest, also known as. And then the Saints game just completely, the wheel fell off. And then unfortunately, in the game against Carolina, he had to basically just play bare minimum and just try and not make mistakes. And thankfully, he did not make any mistakes by himself, like the Saints game we saw. So, with Justin Fields, hopefully healthy enough to return this week against the surging Detroit Lions in Detroit. Basically, the next 7 games, it's going to be a survival mode for both, Justin Fields and, the beleaguered head coach, Matt Eberflus.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting 7 games. You have Detroit, Minnesota, and then a bye week, and you have a game against the Cleveland, and then I forgot the other one. But the next 4 games is going to be a very, very daunting, schedule for the Bears because the Bears are going to be facing one of the tough, defensive teams out there, and
Yep.
it's going to be, a challenge because Justin Fields has not been able to beat a team that is a top 10 in the defensive rankings. Matt Eberflus has not beaten any team yet within his own division and has not won any consecutive games ever since he became a head coach. So
Yep.
the odds are stacked against him. And I know there have been some rumors that the Bears are probably looking to bring back Matt
Yep.
Eberflus, and it's just I'm shaking my head, listening to Adam Johns write a column on the Athletic last week, and he went on to Waddle and Sylvie today to reconfirm his thinking about bringing Matt Eberflus back for next year, which I certainly feel exasperated and sickening to think about him being back again in 2024, presumably with a brand new quarterback. Whether they draft Caleb Williams or Drake May, the Bears are going to be making the same old mistakes again. With the beleaguered, coach who is on the hot seat. You
Right.
pair him with a young rookie quarterback. They did the same shit with John Fox, Mitchell Trubisky, Matt Nagy, and Justin Fields, and the results have been a total disaster. So
Well,
I just hope that they don't make that same mistake because it would ruin the development of a young quarterback when you have a coach who is desperate and fighting for his job next season, that doesn't have the luxury of developing you.
yeah. Well, this is a team that's in transition, and basically it's been in transition for the last 10 years, Stephen. Whether it's been double doinks in the playoff games,
Yeah.
whether it's been all types of, all types of confusion, whether it's like earlier this season, we had no idea what was going on with an alleged raid, which didn't happen. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, this is a team and a franchise that is in flux, an ownership that has not been really supportive of this team and not willing to spend money. It's a team that's right now
Now
hoping.
let me get in there. Bears spend money. They
Yeah,
they're not good at spending the money wisely.
right.
I will say that they spend the money. They gave Montez Sweat a 4-year, $98 million contract just shortly after the trade was made.
Okay.
So they know they will spend the money, but they have not been very, very spending the money wisely in the past. But it's just an organizational failure to repeat the same thing over and over again.
Right. And
Certainly,
now,
I just hope that new team president Kevin Warren sees that, as he continues to, you know, take the the leadership role with the Bears, and find out that you don't want to be doing the same thing three times in a row, because it kills the development of a young quarterback. But anyway, Ken, I apologize for interrupting there as a Bears fan.
okay,
So
that's okay. But
let's
let me
look,
just
yeah,
quickly
let's look
say,
at the other auctions.
yeah,
Other actions this past Sunday.
yeah, just
Certainly,
let me Stephen, let me finish my point though. I'll just quickly say that Kevin Warren just seems to be more concerned right now about this project of building and this mixed use facility. Doesn't seem. I mean, I know that as a Bears fan, you're hoping that we know let's see what happens with this thing. But I haven't seen him. His silence is deafening. So let's certainly hope that the Bears can get things going. And whatever happens next season, whatever happens, they got to draft. They have to draft well. They have not been doing that very well. They had Justin Fields, who we thought there's going to be a, uh, a, a a potential to be a great quarterback. He has regressed as we've seen. But of course, a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's had to go from different coaches, from whether it was Matt Nagy, as you mentioned, over to Eberflus. So,
Mhm.
and we're not seeing a good system that can take advantage of his talents right now. So, I hate to think that if, let's say, that the Bears draft another quarterback, that the Justin Fields goes to a system, and those and the Bears fans will have a real regret about not having of seeing a guy who he takes his talent elsewhere and really blossoms in another location in a system that really
Yeah.
takes his talents. So let's hope that the Bears, and I hope for your sake, Stephen, that things turn around. I mean, I'm seeing things turn around with my Browns. I certainly hope that you also reap the benefits of that as well.
Yeah, there's only 7 games left. It's a
Yeah,
survival for both Fields and Matt Eberflus. So, whether I like it or not, or whether they like it or not, they're basically tied together. Their futures are
yeah,
tied together. So, they better get their act together and show us something in the next 7 games to feel positive about the Bears next year and this upcoming off season as well.
right.
So let's look at the other games. Certainly a lot of interesting games. Quickly, the Colts, barely squeezed by Patriots in Frankfurt, Germany, 10-6. It's
Oh boy. Let me
it was
let me
a it
tell
was a
you.
bad game. It was a bad game.
Yeah, here in New England, Stephen,
Yeah.
they're counting the days down. There again, they're talking about thinking maybe that Bob Kraft is going to pull the trigger on Bill Belichick. That is not going to happen. Okay, Bill Belichick is not going to get fired in season. They're yes, they're going to go on a bye week after this week. They need it. The Patriots. Mac Jones is just not a good quarterback. We saw that the fact that he was taken out right before the last drive. And really, to be honest with you, Mac Jones he has regressed to a point where Bill Belichick has no trust in him. They brought back, they've done everything to try and give him the tools. Bad drafting as well. But I have to say, Stephen, that this New England Patriots franchise, we're used to seeing excellence from them, but we're seeing a
Yeah.
lot of mistakes. We're seeing a lot of mental mistakes. We're seeing a lot of mistakes that never would have been made under the Tom Brady era. Now, granted, it's unfair to compare that era to now. Every team, generally, after you have that big rise and big era of excellence, you're going to go fall. There's a big downfall. The Patriots are experiencing that right now, and
Hmm.
be honest with you, they are looking at right now, along with the New York Giants, who also played a bad game against the Dallas Cowboys this week. Both teams 2-7, 2-8. Uh,
Yeah.
they're going to be. There's going to be a lot of soul searching, and if Bill Belichick can do a good draft, he can solidify his legacy as one of the better minds in pro football. But if it comes in and there's again a poor draft and a quarterback that doesn't measure up, and I can see that his legacy is going to sink. He's still going to be a Hall of Fame coach, but he's still going to be tied, and people are going to say that it was Tom Brady all along, when really wasn't. I have to be honest with you. I have to say it's Belichick who built that team, who put it all together. People who he had over there, and like Scott Pioli. But I have to say that right now his reputation is mush. And if he's not able to turn this around next season with a quarterback, and a much better quarterback, right now he's going to have to rely on Zappy. Um, right now,
Yeah.
the New England Patriots are going to be are right now are right now in danger of being irrelevant in the New England region, and that is really hard to believe after 20 years, 20 years of excellence here in this region, Stephen.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also happen to be in the area for work. Been following the Patriots situation. Been, following the local media as well, and they've been very, very harsh on Bill Belichick, which is something that in the past, because of all the championships and invincibility, certainly may have gotten away. Bill Belichick, that is, but the media has been very, very harsh and been critical of him. I'm sure there's a part of him that's just kind of not used to being put in the hot seat like this, and I do feel that at least he will manage to finish out this year, and then after that, I think they might go the separate ways, part ways with each other. Certainly, I think Belichick is more and more interested in passing Don Shula's record. I know his name was linked to Washington, which was shut down.
I don't think
Uh,
that's not happening.
right.
Yeah,
I know my Bears have been linked to Bill Belichick's name as well, but I just don't see that happening. Maybe the Raiders, ironically, who they fired his assistant Josh McDaniels, a week or so ago. I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago, and look where the Raiders are now. So it wouldn't surprise me if Bill Belichick still does end up in with the Raiders, even though the Raiders cleaned house and fired John Ziegler. I believe that was his former GM, who was also with the David Ziegler, excuse me, also came from New England. So it'll be very interesting to see if the Raiders decide to they don't want anything to do with the Patriots. If of course Tom Brady ends up getting part of the ownership, and if they start to influence, if he starts to wield his influence against Mark Davis, it's going to be very interesting to see where Bill Belichick ends up landing. Presumably that both the Patriots and Bill Belichick cut ties with each other and move on, divorce, and start over.
yeah,
Patriots starting over as well as Bill Belichick starting over. So it'll be very interesting to see where he goes or how he finishes this year. The other game that I was very interested actually was the Texans beating the Bengals 30-27. CJ Stroud is definitely the emerging star, and certainly with the that I mentioned, the Bears Panthers game, Bryce Young is struggling badly, and CJ Stroud, despite the Texans basically being the worst team last year, and certainly with the new head coach and D'Amico Ryans, and the talent still very much lacking. I must say, Stroud is playing lights out, and it just makes me sad that a rookie quarterback can play a lot better with a lot less talent than what the Chicago Bears are dealing with right now with Justin Fields. Ironically, another former Ohio State quarterback, but I have to say what the Texans are doing is impressive. Certainly,
right.
given all the negativity that organization has went through with the Deshaun Watson sexual, assault charges, and the owner, making some stupid comments off the field, um, multiple times. I think Houston is finally, the Texans fans have finally a team that they can be proud of, and certainly comes at a right time when the Astros were eliminated in the American League Championship Series. Dusty Baker, who retired shortly after they were eliminated. The tech. I don't think the Astros are going to drop off quickly, but you know, uh, certainly, with the Astros and the Texans, the Texans are starting to move up in the right direction, while the Astros might be trending downwards. I think Houston fans are certainly have a lot to look forward to, with their football team moving in the right direction again.
Yeah, what's funny is that CJ Stroud and Bryce Young have been compared, of course, this season. Bryce Young, of course, with the Panthers, not doing very well, but CJ Stroud, the last two games, engineering game-winning drives, is definitely on an upward trajectory, as you mentioned, Stephen. He is someone, especially to do what he did on the road against Cincinnati, who the Bengals were thinking that they are definitely or had righted the ship after going 0-2 earlier this season. Now that they're going to be desperate, as you mentioned, going into Baltimore on Thursday Night Football. But CJ Stroud, he is an exciting player. Um, he is already instilling confidence in a Texans franchise that has been, as you mentioned, during the after the Deshaun Watson issues, uh, was pretty much spiraling out of control. But now they have a quarterback right now who is with two great wins. A guy who could be definitely a star in this in the National Football League. And I know I sound a little bit like Chris Collinsworth right then and there, but you really can't help it, especially if CJ Stroud continues to manufacture wins at the last minute. He's a guy that can be compared with some of the greats in the NFL if he continues to do this.
Absolutely. And finally, we look back on yesterday's Monday Night Football. The Bills lost to the Denver Broncos 24-22. The game itself was a quite a snooze fest, pretty much. And the ending of that game, just the ending sequence was just crazy. You know, um, the Bills were out of timeouts, and they had to rush the kicker with about 10 seconds to get themselves ready. And then the kicker for the Broncos missed it, but then the flag was thrown, and it was a 12 man on the field for the Bills.
And even
And
before
so that means that the Broncos did a re-kick, and the second time it was good. Um, I got to tell you, there's something wrong about the Bills. The last couple of years, and they're not trending in the right direction, Ken. And shockingly, this morning they announced that they have fired their offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey.
yeah. Well, let's go back even further on that drive, that game-winning drive with first of all, I don't really know how the Broncos managed to win that game, to be honest with you. Yes,
Uh-huh.
they were leading the Bills for most of the game. But I gotta say, Josh Allen is just a detriment right now. He's throwing, he's making throws that are just inexplicable. He's making throws that are trying. Now it's cute when you can zip a throw in between defenders and your guys, Stephon Diggs, can catch it. But right now, you can see a disconnect between his offense, his receivers, Diggs, and him right now, Steven. I just don't know what they're doing. There's that field
Yeah,
goal. That was the field goal that was missed. But earlier on that drive, Russell Wilson was on a fourth down and threw the ball up, and it was underthrown. Defensive pass interference was called, which managed to
yeah,
extend that drive. And then for some reason, Steven, instead of deciding to kick on third down, getting a timeout, you're using your timeouts. Instead, what Peyton Manning said during the broadcast, during the Manning cast last night, and the Broncos did it twice. They did it once during the at the end of the first half, and they did it again, which they decide to, like, they make a play, giving themselves enough time, but then rushing everybody onto the field to make a rushed field goal kick. It worked the first half, but then the second half,
yeah.
it missed it, but they were bailed out with 12 men on the field by the Buffalo Bills. And then,
Yes.
of course, with the time being called for the penalty, the Broncos were able to set up for their game-winning field goal, and as you see, they did the field goal there. So there were some strange decisions there by the Broncos, who really didn't deserve to win that game, but neither did the Bills. So perhaps we have to say the right result came about, but I have to be honest with you. As I said, the Bills are on a downward spiral. Josh Allen has regressed. He's making plays that are just really unbecoming of a guy who's really more than he's making plays like a rookie out there instead of a guy who's a veteran. So, Stephen, I really don't understand what's
Hmm.
going on with the Bills. They were supposed to be a Super Bowl contender. Instead, right now, they are fighting for the playoff lives. And to be honest with you, I would not be surprised if they didn't make the playoffs this season.
No, their schedule the rest of the way looks horrific, and
Yeah,
they still have to play Dallas, Philadelphia, Kansas City, among other teams. So
yeah,
that's like maybe a toss up. But I think right now with the way they're trending, I think I can see those three games as a loss right
yeah.
now. So I know it's a desperate move by their head coach Sean McDermott to fire Ken Dorsey, which obviously does not resolve anything at this point,
No,
unfortunately.
no. And
Because Josh Allen looks a lot like Brett Favre when he was young, or at least somebody was posting Jeff George. Just basically he's playing like Jeff George right now. It's even brutal comparison right now, but that's what he is right now. So
yeah, I mean, he's throwing
you know,
interceptions. I mean, when you throw passes, I mean, one of his interceptions was tipped. Okay, that's not on him. But his
no,
second interception that he threw, that was gone to the sideline. If
yeah,
you're going
yeah,
to throw
yeah,
the
I
sideline,
remember.
throw the ball away, throw it high enough so that the defender can't get it. He threw it so that the defender made an easy play and could run it back. I really don't understand Josh Allen right now. He was 2 years ago. He was an MVP candidate. Now he's just, as you mentioned, he's Brett Favre out there, and you know at least Brett Favre won one Super Bowl. Josh Allen, right now, the Buffalo Bills window to win a Super Bowl is closing, Steven, and closing very fast.
Yeah, it will be very interesting to see, where the Bills go after this year. You know, does Sean McDermott also get canned? Have we reached that point? It would be very interesting how they finish out, and they also, fired defensive coordinator Leslie Frazier off season, and their defense has actually been more of a problem, which is forte on Sean McDermott's side. So McDermott is now squarely feeling the heat now. So it will be interesting if Buffalo regroups or they just continue to go down their downward spiral. All
I
right, let's
can
finish
see.
up with a couple of news, Ken. Why don't you talk about this one?
Yeah, Ken Squire is a man well known in motorsports. He is right now in hospice. He is in deteriorating health. For NASCAR fans, Ken Squire is synonymous with the Daytona 500 and CBS Sports. It was his words of encouragement. Now, the Daytona 500, now we all know it's been on Fox for over the last 2, 3 decades, Stephen, but up until 1979, it was always shown on tape delay. And
Yeah.
then it Ken Squire who encouraged CBS to show it live in 1979. That was then that race. That was a fight in between two drivers. Cale Yarborough was involved in it, and it was a bad winter day in the Northeast, and it led to great ratings on CBS. And CBS then showed what, and he also was the man who coined the Great American Race onto the Daytona 500. He's a man who also helped to co-found the Motor Racing Network in the 1970s, which is covers every sport right now for NASCAR. It is a must listen to, especially for fans who are at the track. And he also helped to produce NASCAR races for TBS and TNN. A man who has a wealth of knowledge. Also in 1992, a little piece of trivia for you, Stephen. He called the 1992 Daytona 500 on CBS. 3 days later, he flew to France to call short track speed skating in the 1990 uh, in the 1992 Albertville, France Olympics. Um,
Wow.
and that was the first year that short track speed skating was a medal sport. And yeah, he was perfect for that because he used to say there's a crash on turn 4, just like he did in NASCAR races. Ken Squire is in hospice. He's going to spend his final days at home. A man who is also supposed to be in New England this past weekend for one of the an event that was going to be honoring many great announcers like Mike Joy, who is the
Yeah.
voice of NASCAR on Fox. So um, Ken Squire is going to spend his final days at home, and a man that is going to be really missed in motorsports and NASCAR. Um, he is a guy who helped promote the sport and bring it to where the popularity is right now. Ken Squire, he is. You're going to hear a lot of tributes to him on X, Twitter, and all of social media, especially in NASCAR circles. So, uh, like I said, Stephen, he's a man who is well known in motorsports and NASCAR, and a man who really shaped my love of the sport as well. So, my hats off to him, and our thoughts are with his family as he goes into his final days at home.
And then I'm going to close out with the U.S. Women's national team. After a horrendous World Cups showing this past summer, has finally hired Emma Hayes as their new national teams coach. Hayes has a tremendous track record in England as the coach of Chelsea's women's team. This news was actually mentioned 2 weeks ago, but it wasn't officially finalized. But it is officially finalized now.
Yes.
So I think it's a terrific hiring. I know a lot of people are lauding this hiring at a time when U.S. Was completely exposed tactically, and then also, um, maybe from a player growth perspective. I think U.S. needed somebody new, and I think somebody like her is, I think it's a tremendous get for the United States soccer, especially
Yeah.
given that women's soccer is still a lot more popular than the men's side.
Yeah, Emma Hayes, and I know her quite well as a Chelsea fan. She has helped to develop a great dynasty at Chelsea. Now, the
Yeah,
Chelsea's men have been horrible. Let's just face it. But she, in the Women's Super
yeah,
League, has led Chelsea to multiple championships, and they won last year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah.
U.S. Soccer had their eyes on her for quite some time. She is a person who has helped develop the academy at Chelsea for them to have this great run at the Women's Soccer League. And if she can continue and if U.S. Soccer gives her the resources that she deserves, Stephen, she could also be able to develop a great program for the women's soccer. Now, right now, women's soccer has been resting on its laurels and has been using some of those players that helped them win
Mhm.
in 4 years ago in 2019. It got
Sure.
exposed in 2023 because they didn't have anybody to come up after all those great players that they've had in Carly Lloyd and Heather O'Reilly and all the great players. We did see
And let's not, Megan Rapinoe too. Yeah,
yeah. So we haven't seen anybody really come out. Although Sophia Smith is showing some great promise, she was quite nervous out there, and Vlatko kind of misused her in
yeah,
Australia. So I think Emma Hayes is going to be. She has to develop a team for the Olympics next year in Paris, but I think she's going to be able to use the players and be able to make a good run, especially a hungry team that did not do very well in Australia and could just barely got out of the group stage and lost in its first game in the knockout round. Stephen, here's a coach that Emma Hayes I think is going to be a great hire, and I think she's going to do a great job as a U.S. women's coach as long as U.S. Soccer gives her the resources and the funding, and then she can able to do what she did at Chelsea.
yeah, absolutely. Here's the comparison between men's national teams, Berhalter and her,
Oh, please.
certainly.
Not even close. Not even close. Not even close. Not even close.
Yeah, it's sad that the men's national team is, just resort to, hiring somebody on a budget or something like that. Uh, but hopefully, women's team, you said it, they get the right resources. Certainly, overall, the structure, in this country when it comes to soccer is quite expensive with the traveling teams and all that stuff, pay to play, and all of that nonsense, which limits the pool of
Yeah,
people who are able to participate. So,
absolutely.
you know,
Right,
um,
right.
you mentioned the women's soccer is kind of at a crossroads. Megan Rapinoe unfortunately retired this last week after
Ali
suffering an
Krieger.
Achilles injury. That was
Yeah,
very, very sad. A sad ending for her. Now that she has to rehab, not as a somebody who is looking to go back to the pitch, but just basically as a civilian, just trying to move on with her life. So there's going to be some changes structurally, and I hope that whatever they promised her, U.S. soccer certainly has to live by it because right now men's soccer is not exactly doing well. They brought back Berhalter, and I know Berhalter has been booed. At a recent game in Germany, up in Connecticut or somewhere nearby. And the game that was Germany, there was in the turmoil. They had to also fire their national team coach Hansi Flick and hire Julian Nagelsmann. In his first game, Germany with their all the turmoil just still dominated the U.S. 3-1,
yeah,
and it's not a good look on the U.S. They're able to get the player selection right, but the tactical part of it is still very much repeating the same thing over and over again, basically with the 4-3-3, and then just basically, throwing in crosses without any purposes. So, I think U.S. men's national team has its match, and women's national team hopefully they'll rise from their embarrassment this past summer, and will be very interesting to see, whether what the USSF and their sort of an emphasis, where they put their emphasis. They put their emphasis more on the women's national team still more so than the men's national team hiring as we
yeah.
speak.
It's going to be interesting. We're on the international break right now, so all the
Yeah,
leagues are in the national teams. We're seeing for the Europeans, we're seeing Euro qualifying, UEFA Euro qualifying, but for the United States and for CONCACAF, we're seeing the CONCACAF Nations League. The United States has a quarterfinal match. They have two legs, and one match is going to be on Thursday on TNT. I forget the country they're going to be playing against, Stephen, but that game will be on TNT. We will see what Greg Berhalter and what he can do in that match. That game is going to be played in Austin, and then the second leg of the match will be played on Tuesday against the same country. So let's see how they do, Stephen. Well, let's see if Berhalter can do something here, especially in a situation where the United States. They don't forget they won the CONCACAF nation. They won the Nations League a few years ago. No, not the Nations League, but they won some hardware last year. Let's see what they can do now. It wasn't Berhalter who won it, by the way. Let's see if what happens as they go into the international break, and see if some good results can happen for the men's team.
yeah. Very interesting time, with the soccer in this country, and hopefully both men and women will continue to do very well. With the men's World Cup in about less than 3 years, and the women, certainly, I don't think it's all done, but they have a lot of challenges ahead of them now moving forward.
Absolutely. I mean, Spain is going to be tough. Spain is already on an upward trajectory. We saw what Australia can do, and if Australia continue that great run, they certainly are looking to medal. And of course, England. England has after they lost in the women's final, they've lost their last 4 games. But I think that was disappointment after losing in the women's World Cup final. but England is going to be especially is going to be tough, especially in the Olympics in 2024 in Paris next season. And you also have Spain, which is looking to double. No women's World Cup team has ever won an Olympics gold medal. So we'll see if Spain can pull that double. And of course, as we mentioned, Australia is looking to hopefully medal for the first time. And of course, Canada is going to be the defending gold medalist, but Christine Sinclair is not going to be there next season. But going to be interesting to see what happens, Stephen. I'm, as you can well see, I'm so enthusiastic about coming up for the 2024 Olympics in both the men's and the women's side. So we'll have plenty to talk about over the next year.
Absolutely. Well, Ken, listen, thanks for your time. We certainly had a lot to cover. We didn't think there wasn't much to talk about. We certainly had a lot to talk about tonight, and I appreciate you, joining me once again. I know you have a work tomorrow as well, and hopefully we'll get together again next week to talk more about it, and we might see some movements in the, free agency news as well, and we're going to talk more about the Week 11 of the NFL as those are the two main topics that we'll hope to be talking on our next broadcast as well.
Yes. So don't forget, as you can see, the AA team with myself and Steven is live usually on Tuesdays on X or Twitter, whichever you want to call it. We're also streaming live on YouTube through our AA team channel. You're certainly welcome to make comments, and you're certainly also to give us some feedback on what you think and what you hear. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for watching. And Stephen, we'll see you again next week.
Thank you very much, Ken, and I hope to talk to you again next week, same time. And we will be posting information on our next broadcast on Twitter as well. Thank you for watching. Have a great night, everybody.